Hello, I'm Sarah Fromm, and I'm an assistant at the archive here at the Fort Collins Museum of Discovery. Today, I'm going to be talking about Carmen Johnson, Home Demonstration Agent with the Extension Service for Larimer County. Carmen was born in 1892 in Longmont, Colorado to John and Clara Butterworth. She had two sisters as well. The Butterworths were known largely for having a farm outside of Longmont that had been homesteaded by Carmen's grandfather in the 1860s. After graduating from high school in 1909, Carmen went to Colorado Agricultural College. CAC, which was eventually renamed to CSU, had roughly 600 students at it at the time that Carmen attended. She was highly active in campus life, where she was involved in several clubs, a sorority, Tau Epsilon Tau, and was the society editor of the school newspaper. She graduated in 1913 with a degree in home economics. After graduation, Carmen went directly into teaching. She either taught or set up home economic programs at various schools in Manzanilla, Idaho Springs, and the State Normal School in Gunnison, Colorado. Down in Gunnison, she met Hunter Ashby Johnson and they got married in 1920. Their daughter, Virginia, was born in 1921. And it's not very clear here on the timeline, but they lived in Arizona for a little bit before returning to Colorado. In 1929, the Johnsons had separated, and Carmen Johnson was explaining to people that she was a widow, even though Hunter Ashby didn't die until 1960. Carmen worked for a while with the Colorado Fuel and Iron Company as a cafeteria manager until they went to receivership because of the Depression, at which point she quit and went to work for government canning. In 1934, a position opened with the Extension Service as a home demonstration agent in Larimer County, and she took it. So, extension service is literally the extension of university and research based information to people who otherwise may not have access to it, like those living in the rural communities. In 1914, the Smith-Lever Act created the Federal Extension Service to be based at land grant universities around the nation, one of which was CSU. So the Extension Service works by having a system of agents and specialists at the state level, and then you have your local county agent, and that's the person who interacts with the farmers. They work directly with the farmers, but they also work through clubs like the 4-H club and home demonstration clubs. So there was typically, at the time that Carmen Johnson was within the Extension Service, a male Extension Service agent who worked directly with the farmers and worked with crops and animals and soil. And then there was a female agent, a home demonstration agent, who worked with the home demonstration clubs and focused on things more like nutrition and children's education. Um, when Carmen Johnson started, she worked out of the post office in Fort Collins, which she described as having the 43 of the steepest steps in Fort Collins, and she despised having to carry both the pressure cooker and the canning equipment up those steps every time. As the county home demonstration agent, Carmen Johnson oversaw the women's extension work in Larimer County and through a period of huge change from the early 30s through, say, the 1950s when she retired. There was a lot of change in just practical things for a lot of the people in the community. There were new services that were being brought to the farms, like electricity, water, and sewage. Equipment changed in that time period. You went from having different kinds of stoves and heaters now that you can view with the gas and electricity. And then there's other things, just maybe mundane to some people, but fabric changed during that time. So how would people know what kind of fabrics to use in their dresses? Um, there was also a change in attitudes. Extension service was created to bring in some of these progressive values, and some of the values would have been things like children should be children, and that everyone should take time to have recreation and play in their lives, even though farming takes up a lot of the time. So, one of the mottos that the home demonstration clubs had was that all life should be made more livable. Uh, so, to do that, it would be the demonstrations agent to bring that information to these people to educate them on how they could make lives more livable. They could make lives better. So they would do things like focusing on, um, clothing, home furnishings, welfare, nutrition, and home management. So the home demonstration agent would share this information on, child welfare and home furnishings and dressmaking with the women of her county in a variety of ways. Through the demonstration clubs was actually one of the most common ways. So the home demonstration clubs in a county would often select a leader or two from their clubs to go represent them at monthly meetings where the county agent, Mrs. Johnson, and often a specialist would be there to provide information and a practical demonstration on a technique or a skill such as canning or refurnishing a chair, and then the volunteers from those clubs would go back and share that information with their clubs. uh, the county agent could also work individually with farmers and farmers' wives to see what they needed done in their personal space. But demonstrations are kind of intensive for the women of the home demonstration clubs as well. So there was another way in which Carmen Johnson, the home demonstration agent, could reach out to members of the public and to share that education with them. So one way would be to do that would be through newspaper articles. She wrote a lot of newspaper articles in which she do sharing things like recipes, such as how to make a cottage cheese cherry salad, or perhaps pickle your spiced cherries. Um, but this allowed there to be a more passive but constant uh, feeding of information to people who lived in the county. There was also things like clubs putting their work on display in shop windows around town, so those who were not already involved in clubs could see what clubs were actually doing and how clubs were leading the way in various things. In 1948, there was actually the start of a weekly radio program in Fort Collins that was put on by the home demonstration clubs, and it ran for several years, and it covered a variety of topics like flower arrangement and cake baking, and it allowed, again, for a more passive experience and gaining of that university uh, research-based knowledge. Passive, of course, for the people who lived in the county. Carmen Johnson certainly did a lot of work writing these newspaper articles and participating in these radio programs. Another way home demonstration agents and the Extension Service encouraged education was to have displays and competitions. So, to do well in a competition or to put on a well meaningful, good looking display, you have to have skills. Those skills could be taught and learned through the Extension Service. So, home demonstration clubs had an achievement day, which eventually actually extended into Achievement Week, which was a chance for clubs to show off, and the women, therefore, to show off the skills that they had learned during the year, such as home beautification and nutrition. Example here with the Cashel Peters Club display of a nutritional breakfast and their curtain shears for their kitchen. There was also uh, competitions. They were more known through the 4-H clubs, but Carmen Johnson helped young women in pie baking competitions, and she helped some of the women with the Make It With Wool dress competition, in which a girl had to make a dress made from wool on her own. And it's a competition that still exists today. The Larimer County Library also got a lot of its books through book drives that were run by the home demonstration clubs. Carmen Johnson went to her clubs and asked them to bring in books, and that's how a lot of the books were gotten for the county library in the earlier days for it. Um, the home demonstration clubs had a big impact, nationally and in Fort Collins, uh, during the war years. One of the things that was driven nationally was this mattress program. There was women in the home demonstration clubs would make mattresses to be delivered to families who were on the relief rolls. So these women nationwide made roughly 385,000 mattresses. Larimer County in 1941, sort of May through October of 1941, made 141 mattresses and comforters. Uh, the Home Demonstration Club also, you know, provided examples in how to preserve, how to can, how to live thriftily, and Carmen Johnson did things like, how to cook with the food that you were given from your ration stamps. Uh, they also provided a lot of stuff for the 4-H clubs. Home demonstration clubs were, were often encouraged to support a 4-H club and sponsor 4-Hers. Uh, and one of the ideas that they had in the 40s and 50s to encourage some of that was to create a 4-H club house on the CSU campus. Now, this is something that's been done in other universities, and the home demonstration clubs were working to raise money for it. Eventually, they realized that this really wasn't going to work, that there just wasn't enough money and enough interest in this, and they took the money instead and put it in an account and created a scholarship for 4-Hers out of it. And this was something that after Carmen Johnson retired was, a scholarship named in her honor. Home demonstration work was really Carmen Johnson's life work. She was the home demonstration agent for Larimer County for 23 years, from 1934 until 1957. And during that time, she worked hard. She worked an average of 16 hours a day as county agent. In 1937, she estimated that she traveled an average of 1,200 miles a month around the county, uh, working with women and their communities and their clubs. As I mentioned before, she was, agent during a period of change. You know, there was a lot of new information that women needed to know so that way they could make their lives, more livable, so all lives could be livable. Uh, and she wasn't interested in only educating the rural women of Larimer County, but she was also interested in continuing her own education, the education of other home demonstration agents. So while she was county agent for Larimer County, she was also involved with the National Home Demonstration Agents Association. She was a regional counselor. She served on all of their board positions, and in 1953 and in 1954, she was president of the National Home Demonstration Agents Association. And, even in Carmen Johnson's spare time, what there was of it, she was still involved in education and information spreading and outreach. She was a member of the Larimer County Library Board, and while she did things like traveling to Europe to visit her daughter and son-in-law who were stationed in Stuttgart after the war, she, combined these with things like conferences. And in 1947, she went to Holland for the Associated Countrywomen of the World meeting, to see how other rural women uh, did things and how they uh, made do and what things and tricks they had up their sleeves for making their lives livable. But again, home demonstration was really where Carmen Johnson, uh, I think, found herself, found her drive, was the happiest. So, it made sense that even when she retired from this hard job that took up a lot of hours, she still stayed with the home demonstration stuff. When she retired, she became a member of the Cash Laputer Home Demonstration Club and continued to do things like making tote bags for uh, the next county wide meeting or statewide meeting that was being held in the county, and just continuing to be active in her community and as the home demonstration work. Thank you for listening to this presentation. Now, one delightful problem I had making this presentation is that since Carmen Johnson was, the home demonstration county agent in Larimer County for 23 years and did things like publishing uh, weekly newspaper articles and hosting competitions and contests and writing her own history book on the history of home demonstration work in Larimer County, I was blessed with an abundance of information on the Extension Service and particularly home demonstration work and Carmen Johnson. It was so much information that I could not put nearly as much of it in this presentation as I would like. So if you're interested, I would encourage you to come into the archives of the Fort Collins Museum of Discovery and check out some of the work that Carmen Johnson has left behind for us.